Hi everybody, thanks for joining me here on Watercolor Notebook. My name is Pam Chase. Today I'll be painting a simple landscape using my new set of 5 brushes from the Ranson hockey brush set. So thanks for being here, and I'll leave a link in the comments so that you can find them on Amazon. I'm painting here on a watercolor and wet media block, and this paper is by Rubens. It's in a block, and it is 50% cotton rag and 50% pulp. And I wanted to try it out because I'd never tried a half and half paper before, and I really like it. It performs very well. So we're going to use it for this small landscape. I'm going to start out by using my hockey brush. And today we're going to start on a wet on dry. Normally I would wet my paper down first before we start, but I'm going to do it a little differently because I want to get a little bit of a dry brush effect on the sky area. We'll start with a cobalt blue, and we'll add in some indigo and maybe a little phthalo for the blues. Get some variation in the blue color. We'll be using red iron oxide, and we'll be using raw umber and yellow ochre. All right, so let's get started with a little bit of our cobalt. Mix that in. I'm going to bring in a little bit of the indigo. The indigo is a little bit darker and not quite as bright. I'm going to put in a little bit of the red iron oxide just to knock that back a little bit for the sky. Okay, I'm just mixing these colors until I get the sky color that I like. Take your time with this. You'll be much happier with the outcome if you get colors that you really love. Okay, now I'm going to go in, and just for the sky area, I'm going to use the side of the hockey brush, and I'm holding it just in a balanced way. I'm going to use some very light touches here. And skies have perspective, so I'm going to kind of be working on a diagonal from the horizon line up to the corner. So let's just get some of our blues in. The paper is fairly rough, so it's really good for just a light touch to get a lot of clouds left in the sky. So let's change color now. I'm going to go to some of my yellow ochre, mix that in with my blue. Okay, not too bright yet. I still want to keep this pretty muted. And we're going to go, and still using the side of the brush, I'm going to put in some of those. It's really a duller color, which will make the white clouds pop even more. And using a paper towel, I'm going to pick up the extra water and pigment that puddles a little bit. Our horizon line will be here, so I really want to stop the flow at the horizon line. I'm going to put in at this point just a touch of alizarin crimson and get a little bit of warmth in that sky. Again, I'm just going to be using the side of the hockey brush, very light touches, and just touch in. I'm going to come underneath of these clouds a little bit, using the sides and the corner of my brush. Again, picking up any of that extra moisture that comes down. And you can see that our clouds are really starting to pop out here. Okay, so now I'm going to change brushes and pick up, let's pick up this number 14 round, and I'm just going to go in with some clear water, and I'm going to go in the center of this cloud and do a little bit of lifting to this one. So I'm just lifting out some color in those clouds. Okay, let's pick up a little bit more. We don't want to overdo this, but we're trying to just lift out to get some of those white areas. All right, so there is a very light wash on the sky. Working from my biggest brushes down. So the next one I'll pick up is my 3/4 flat, and let's pick up some more blue. We're going a little bit darker as we go. Okay, and I want to just start to put in on the horizon just an impression of some buildings and just stuff on the horizon. So I'm pushing up and pulling down using this brush just to indicate some things that are living here on the horizon. I'm going to reinforce the bottom with some darker pigment at the bottom of our horizon, at the bottom of the horizon line here. And let's use the edge of our flat and just put some little shadows in between some of these buildings, concentrating a little bit in the middle because that's where we want to draw the eye the most. And we'll come out and just define a few little reflections below the horizon line a little bit. And let's just emphasize that area. I'm using the edge of the brush and the side of the brush. And you can see what a precise line we can get with this flat. Okay, very nice. I'm going to put in just a touch of that alizarin right on the bottom, just for some color. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. Let's come back up, get just a little bit of color. So we've got some layering going on, adding some interest to our painting. All right, now I'm going to change brushes again and go to the sword brush here. This is our medium sword. And I'm going to pick up some more of that yellow ochre. And notice we've really only used a couple of colors here, well, a couple of different blue hues, and then a red iron oxide and the yellow ochre, but really that's it. So we're working with a very limited palette. And here I'm going to put in just some lighter, warmer, and if I'm pushing down on this brush and using the side of the brush and the point, and we get some very nice texture. Love this brush. Just putting in a tiny bit of that alizarin crimson as we get down into the foreground. general rule of thumb in watercolor is as you get to the foreground, your lines become sharper and your colors become warmer. As you go further into the background, they should be more the color of the sky. So you notice that on these silhouettes of the buildings, I'm using a lot of shadowy blue, and in the foreground is where I'm using more of the warmer grassy colors of the yellow ochre. So I'm very happy with the way this is coming out. We're going to let it dry off a little bit, and we have now used 4 of our 5 brushes. So the one that we have left to go is our number 2 from series 103. This is a rigger, a long rigger. So we're going to dry off and then come back and go in with some final details using our rigger. Okay, so while I was waiting for that to dry off, I've mixed up some Payne's Gray into the color that I already had on my palette, and that's a nice little tip for keeping good color harmony in your darks, is to mix it with some of what's already on your palette, and it will just kind of make things harmonize so nicely. So I'm using the number 2 rigger, and I've loaded it up with my Payne's Gray mixture, and I'm going to put in a large tree in the foreground of my painting, and I want the tree to be very large and very bold. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here and using the side of the rigger, touch it to the paper, and I'm pushing down and pulling up and gradually lifting my brush off the paper as I go. And that's going to give me a heavy base to my tree and a very light top. So now I'm ready to put in the next part of my branch. I'm going to put in, you know how tree trunks kind of usually divide. So I'm thinking about that division. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do the same thing and divide that trunk. Okay, and while my paint is still wet, I'm going to go in, clean off my brush, and have just some clear water, and I'm going to plant the bottom of that tree into the ground by using clear water and just fanning that out, giving it a shadow. And we're going to let that do its own thing. Don't mess with it too much. If it starts to puddle, I'm just going to take the corner of my paper towel and pick up the puddle so I don't get a back run. And now let's come in. We're going to put some branches in. So I need to connect this branch, first of all, a little bit better to the trunk. And I'm going to just improve the shape of that. You see how it's more of a U shape than, we don't want any hard lines here. It's more of a curve than an angle. So I'm adjusting that as I go while the paint is wet. It's good to hold the brush kind of back a little bit and let it wiggle as we're putting these branches in. You press down on the bristles and then you pull up. We want to avoid parallel lines. I'm going to adjust the shape of this one a little bit. The trunks will always be heavier at the bottom, and they get thinner as they go up. So we're adjusting the thickness of our branches. You can do a lot of this at the end, but if I see it as I go along, I just go ahead and adjust it. Okay, now I'm going to put in on this one another kind of a main trunk here. Adjusting the thickness. Let's put in some thinner branches. Okay. I'm going to mix in a little more blue at this point, because as we go up, the branches are a little further away, so they're going to be a little lighter. And let's pick some cerulean and mix into that Payne's Gray. All right. For some of these finer branches. Just like that. Blend a little bit right there. Okay, holding your brush back will give you a little more of an organic shape to these branches. Just rounding off where the branches split off. And it's good to take a step back often and look to see where you are and what these trees need. Sometimes if we focus so closely, we lose perspective on the tree. Okay. Here. This rigger is very friendly, and I'm liking the lines that it allows you to create with it. Okay, we're getting close to where it's time to stop. I'm going to do a little bit of work on this trunk down here now. And let's follow this branch down. Okay, good. Just checking, make sure everything is connecting. And you know, this is an impressionistic painting, but you know, some of these details really help the painting along. Okay, and I think that is where we're going to stop for that part of it. And trees, if you notice at the bottom of them, a lot of times they will have grasses and things growing at the base of them. So I'm just going to put a few of those in. And let's make sure that they are anchored down to the ground as well. And I'm going to take a little bit of that Payne's gray, come in and add just a little bit of darker color to the horizon area. Some clear water to soften the bottom edge there and create a little bit of a shadow. Don't want to do too much of that. Okay, now I could start to fuss with windows and things like that in the painting, but for our purposes today, I'm going to stop there and take the tape off just so that you can get an idea of what a painting like this would look like in a frame. So this Ranson big brush set for me is a huge hit, and really the brushes that you get in the set are everything that you would need for a loose and fast painting like this. I'll leave the link in the comments below so that you can find these brushes on Amazon. Love them, high quality, perform exactly as I wish that they would, and even better. So I highly recommend them. They're not extremely inexpensive, but they're not out of reach either. So, you know, give it a try, poke around a little bit. You can the pricing on Amazon is a little bit flexible, so look around a little bit before you put your order in. Let me put just a little frame on this so that you can see how it would turn out. So there's just a little 10 or 15 minute painting, mostly with a hockey brush, and I really like the effect that you get. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for your interest in watercolor, and I hope you got something out of this video today, and will give this painting a try for yourself. I hope you have a wonderful new year, and see you in the next video.